Welcome to the Integrated Intelligence to Support Operations webinar. I'm Laura Krennick, Intelligence Marketing Coordinator here at Esri. Your presenters today are Ben Conklin and David Attaway. This webinar will provide valuable information for intelligence professionals from multiple disciplines on using a location platform for integrating foundational information, system of record, location enabling your organization, system of engagement, and using integrated intelligence to support robust decision-making, system of insight. At the end of the webinar, there will be survey questions. Please complete the questions so we may produce quality webinars. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the same page you registered from. I will now turn it over to Ben and David.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning. Over the last several years, we've seen intelligence become increasingly complex. It's becoming more and more challenged to integrate different intelligence information together and to provide relevant, timely intelligence for operational purposes. This has made it more and more complicated to operate effectively in intelligence operations around the globe. Our position is that GIS is an enabler for integrating intelligence information. During this webinar over the next hour, you're going to learn about the different techniques and tools available in a GIS to help you integrate intelligence information. This will help you in your own work as you go back into your own environments. Think about projects you could undertake to better integrate intelligence information leveraging GIS. We're going to start off with an overview of the changing landscape of intelligence. Then we're going to move into what does it mean to have intelligence provide support to operations. And then finally, we're going to walk through some use cases for specific intelligence disciplines leveraging a GIS platform. So welcome and thank you for joining us today. I'm joined by Dr. Dave Attaway out of our Washington, DC office. I'm Ben Conklin. I'm our industry manager for defense and intelligence. We'll be presenting to you today on the topic of intelligence support to operations. We think this topic is really important today. I'm sure, as you can know just from watching the news, that we live in a very dangerous time with many new challenges developing. Pandemics, natural disasters, political crisis, organized crime, terrorism, and some of our traditional adversaries are acting in new and challenging ways. If you actually look back on the intelligence field over the last several decades, you'll see some of the changes that have occurred and some of the ways that the intelligence discipline is rapidly changing to adapt to some of these challenges. The modern profession of intelligence really began with a focus on human intelligence and managing a single threat. Over time, new technical capabilities were developed to collect intelligence information. Organizations were created based on intelligence discipline to wring out as much intel as possible from each piece of data collected. Robust rules were developed for understanding the signature of our enemies based on fixed location and known targets. After 9/11, the game was changed. The enemy no longer had fixed signatures or known target locations. And this is where we began to break down some of our intelligence stovepipes and form multidisciplinary intelligence teams. This is also when many new techniques were being developed. Today, we're now seeing a threat becoming increasingly complex, with new threats and new technologies being applied, leading us to aspire for a true integrated intelligence environment that provides comprehensive understanding. Many groups have been performing all-source or integrated intelligence for years, but this new age requires smaller operations to be taken to a larger scale into a larger workforce. In addition to the increasing need for understanding the complex threat environment, there's an explosion of new sources of information: drones, consumer devices, social media, and real-time reporting. This new data creates demand for new applications, the app revolution, providing people access to information with the ability to analyze it and visualize it like never before. These advancements all ride on new technology trends, with great increases in computing power and storage. Similar to many technology trends, every user wants a personalized view or interaction with data, like you might see in your common social media applications, for example. We can create data environments for managing and storing these vast new collections of data and make it available to anyone in the organization on any device at any time in a manner that is meaningful for them. What we've also seen in the intelligence world is a shift towards multi-int analysis and production. So this is not about making every analyst into an all-source analyst. What's actually happening is that each analyst, regardless of discipline, is using multiple intelligence sources and their exploitation and analysis. For example, A full motion video analyst might see activity, but adding in human and SIGINT data, they're able to connect that activity to a specific individual or a specific location. This adds context and helps their analysis bring value quicker and also be more complete. In this new world, location mapping and GIS are becoming essential. Maps are a fundamental language for understanding our world. They provide content and context throughout everything. All activity happens at a place and at a time. GIS provides a framework and a process for enabling a smarter community. It begins with the obvious need of integrating data and managing it effectively. The main purpose of this is quite often just to visualize it in the form of maps and scenes. That's only the tip of the iceberg, however. The other additional need for GIS is to do advanced analytics and modeling. This science and this knowledge that's developed using a GIS helps enable our understanding in order to support planning and design, in order to make effective decisions, in order to understand the impacts of our decisions and understand the factors that are involved in making robust decisions. And then finally, in order to enable action. For one, GIS helps us have situational awareness during actions as they unfold, but also helps us capture information and the results of our actions in order to understand it better and feed back into our processes. GISs are connecting everyone. Everyone in an intelligence organization needs access to authoritative maps. They want access to those maps, but they also want to make their own maps. As soon as they have access to authoritative information, they want to take their own intelligence information and overlay it on the map. They want to be able to see that information in real time and collaborate with others in their organization. This is about providing access to that content to everybody in the organization on any device at any time, but also allowing them to contribute their own knowledge back to the organization. From an intelligence perspective, another key component of GIS is the ability of a GIS to embed advanced analytics and visualization. This helps provide us that system of insights. We have new technologies in GIS allowing us to do big data geoanalytics. So instead of taking small samples of data, we can now analyze and process large volumes of intelligence information. We can also interactively explore and analyze information, asking questions and getting answers immediately through simple tools and techniques. And then finally, we have the robust world of spatial analytics and geoprocessing, a wide array of tools that can be combined together in different ways as established tradecraft and run on very large volumes of data in order to understand patterns and trends in the data. All of these tools combine together to provide us that system of insights. So what does that actually mean? How is this going to help you integrate intelligence or information and solve the problems that you face today? Well, we can start to think about GIS as a multi-intelligence platform. As I said earlier, all activity occurs at a time and a place. We can integrate our intelligence activities and analysis by moving and managing them in the context of location. Each analyst still operates in their own arena, but we extend location beyond the realm of the traditional terrain analyst or geoint specialist and to the rest of the intelligence disciplines, enabling all of the disciplines to collaborate and share geographic knowledge with each other and perform all source analysis. We can access our analytic services, our internal, external data sources, whether they're classified or open source intelligence information, and we can integrate them into a variety of applications for specific purposes. As we do that, we can actually begin to extend our intelligence information from the intelligence analysts all the way out to the operators. This enables the convergence of operations and intelligence, providing access to everybody to the same information. So what do we mean when we say that GIS helps us integrate intelligence information? Well, GIS allows us to dynamically integrate information. Rather than put all information into one system, it allows us to integrate it in a couple of important ways. The first way, which is the simple way, is through visual overlay. Just the ability to see information in context of space and time on top of each other, mashing up information from multiple sources. And then in addition to that, we can do spatial analytics or modeling on data, where we combine information from multiple layers, combine points and polygons and other information together in order to add context and to help us discover and understand relationships either visually or through analytics. This intelligence platform allows us to integrate data from multiple levels. So whether that's data that's collected in the field in a soldier sensor case, or information that's being collected at a national scale or in a multi-nation or joint task force organization. That information is combined dynamically and integrated using location and time as a common organizer. Then individual analysts access this information based on their discipline and their skills and their knowledge, and they contribute that information into true multi-int products. So information that's combined from multiple intelligence disciplines, whether that's sources of collection or the results of analytic processes that are performed by these individual analysts. These can result in true multi-int products, which is what the operational decision makers really need in order to understand the intelligence environment. So now that I've provided you this overview of how this intelligence platform works, what I'm going to do is turn it over to Dave Attaway, and he's going to actually show you a little bit about how this platform works and how you can use it in order to integrate intelligence information. David?
Thanks, Ben. So moving away from stovepipe information on the desktop or on a random server, the portal allows for you to have a point where analysts from multiple intelligence disciplines can come together to have a collaborative and exploratory location to analyze their work. One of the challenges with any intelligence discipline is to create great stories, and then to effectively share that information with either their own organization or with others. Portal gives us access to rich content, allowing intelligence disciplines to construct their stories in a centralized place where they can search, collaborate, and disseminate that information. The portal has a gallery where we can see the featured content available from that portal or from maybe a connection to another server. At the same time, we also have a map and a scene interface where we can utilize the geospatial information made available by our geo analysts or maybe some other analysts, whether they're focused on SIGINT or another type of discipline. But then we have one of the most important components, which are groups. And groups are where these intelligence disciplines can collaborate together. In this case, I have a Libya situation development group that focuses on understanding what's going on in Libya. In this location, different analysts can work together to create multiple intelligence products. Here we have this group that focuses on reporting anything regarding Libya's situation development. And with this, we have a number of different applications that have been created. These include a story map, which pulls together all source information to give us context for what's going on in Libya, as well as integrating information coming from the open source analysts and the geospatial analysts. At the same time, we can also understand what armed conflict has been occurring in Libya. And our geospatial analysts can publish this information so that anyone that has access to this link can get access to the data and the information. At the same time, we can also pull in other types of information, whether it's economic, political, or in this case, oil and gas or regional information that's most important. And this story map allows us to pull in information over different AOIs, have context for that information, and to share that out. Another app I want to show you real quick is our operations dashboard. Here we have a dashboard that's bringing in hypothetical SIGINT hits over our specific AOIs. Each one of these AOIs can be then focused to where we can double click on that and focus to that specific area of interest. This information is coming in near real time so we can have a situation awareness of what's going on in that specific region, or we can zoom it out to have the full area of influence or look at the context for all the information that's coming through. This utilizes information by combining multiple intelligences, whether it's SIGINT, GeoInt, or even maybe potentially pulling in some IMINT to be able to have that type of information. And this application also provides context for any additional collections that may need to be captured. Another application is this Tripoli air attack, which looks at pre and post information. This provides a battle damage assessment of our area of focus. I'll go into more detail here in a little bit, but just know that we can be able to pull in the information, swipe between different imagery, as well as to be able to have an image list so we can look at specific images at specific times. And here's our finalized application, which is a swipe application. This provides pre and post image. They can have their geospatial enabled structured observations on the map, as well as being able to have a swipe between the two images to see the pre and the post, the attack. We also have Insights. And Insights for ArcGIS is a new web application experience, which I'll go into detail more here in just a little bit. But with that, let me give it back to Ben so that he can continue to teach you more. Thanks, Ben.
So now we're going to talk through what it means to provide intelligence support to operations. So we're following what's known as the doctrinal concepts from the joint publication 2-01. And we're going to talk through how GIS capabilities help us support the doctrine and help us leverage tools and capabilities to integrate intelligence and support of operations. So to begin with, it's important to understand the different categories or kinds of intelligence that necessitate different kinds of products and different methodologies to support them. The first category is strategic intelligence, which is really intelligence that's developed as guiding developing policies, usually looking 3 to 5 years in the future. Products that are included in that discipline would include the National Intelligence Estimate, and you'd have multiple methodologies you'd employ, like an analysis of competing hypotheses to develop such products. In the realm of current intelligence, we have our day-to-day events and new developments, possibly indicators of developments to come. These would include products like the President's Daily Brief or just standard situation briefings. And you do methodology like our key assumptions check as part of that. You also develop your basic intelligence. This is the foundation of on which a lot of other intelligence products ride. It's reference data presented in various forms and publications like the CIA World Factbook. And then finally, a developing area is in the realm of discovery intelligence, which is really focusing on unconstrained exercise, searching for new or potentially unknown information. You might create a high impact, low probability assessment, and the methodology you'd follow would be activity-based intelligence. This shift in focus and the addition of discovery is really all around the fact that much of our intelligence is now dealing with what we call the unknown unknowns. In traditional intelligence, we knew the location of our targets and we knew what their signatures were. We knew how to identify what they were doing. And we would just monitor those locations. Or if we maybe didn't know the location, but we knew the signature, we would search for them based on many advanced techniques. But in many cases, we don't know that. We are struggling with that unknown problem. And we need to discover information in order to actually perform those other intelligence techniques. What we fundamentally want to do is we want to see how things are connected together. People and things, how they're connected to events, how they're connected to outcomes. And what we want to do is see all that in space and time. We can understand these different related activities by putting them together in space and in time. And in doing that, we can now have better context in order to make our analysis assessments. So in doing this, we actually have a variety of different products we need to make. And these products require additional analytic effort, meaning time and workforce, in order to create. But ultimately, that time is well spent in terms of gaining advantage in making decisions. At the very bottom of our list, we look at alerts, notifications that something happened. In some cases, that requires an analyst to generate the alert, or in many cases, these can come from machines. We might then also have a standardized report. When an incident occurs, we create a standard report and we quickly roll that out. In some cases, we'll make a more tailored report that explains the situation in more detail, might have more information that we collect over time. We might have a variety of different kinds of visualizations we create, whether those are maps or charts or link views, showing where things happened, how many, and how things are connected. We might query or drill down into the data to try to figure out what the specific causes are. We might do statistical analysis to try to figure out why it happened. And then from there, we'll turn into this longer timeline effect of looking at things like forecasting. What might happen and when is it likely to happen? Doing our anticipatory analytics to try to figure out how and when things will happen. How we do that, the process that every intelligence analyst follows is really what's known as the intelligence cycle, which takes on a few different forms, but in general follows the same cycle, from planning and collection to processing and exploitation and analysis of data. moving into production, and then ultimately dissemination. And this cycle follows and spins around the mission, supporting the mission and advancing and developing our knowledge of the environment to support that mission. When we think about it from a GIS perspective, we like to think about how we would use applications to support those various workflows that you'd follow, either to create those specific or to follow and fit into where it fits into the planning cycle. And we really see the new age of intelligence, the new age of GIS, around the idea of focused applications. Rather than one application that does everything, we have focused applications that are powerful and ready to use, and they're purpose-built and used for specific phases and specific information products. So for example, during our planning collection phase, we have a variety of applications for getting information input in a structured way, for managing our workforce, and for involving people from the larger community in the contribution of intelligence information. We also have a variety of applications for exploitation analysis. We have our high-end GIS tools in the form of ArcGIS Pro. We also have new interactive analytics tools like ArcGIS Insights for providing a spatial BI on our data. We have tools like the operations dashboard, like Dave was just showing earlier. We can look at live real-time information and make sense of it quickly. We can analyze data using Microsoft Excel and Maps for Office. We can use big data analytics and geoanalytics. And then finally, we can build our products and disseminate them. And we can disseminate them in new ways as interactive products. Instead of static products that are stale after the moment after the analysis is done, we can create interactive products using tools like story maps or quick reporting tools, tools like the swipe and story glass for looking at change over time, or time-aware applications for playing back time-aware data using a fixed timeline. So all of these different applications are focused, powerful, and ready to use. And there's many applications that are part of our GIS. So I'm just going to provide a simple example of how applications like that fit into a common workflow. The idea of enabling our intelligence reporting. So intelligence information that's being collected by operators in the field and being passed back in. So ideally, we want to tackle the problem of combining our intelligence reporting information at the point of entry. We want to give our collectors applications like GeoForm or Survey123 to collect information. These simple applications allow for rapid and structured data entry without disrupting our current workflows. For example, you could drop a simple GeoForm app down next to a video exploitation window and use that to capture structured observations without changing or disrupting existing workflows. We also, of course, have the problem that there's lots of data that comes in textual forms. So you could provide a GeoForm application in order to manually input that information or hand jam it into the system. Or you could use tools like our partner technology, LocateXT, to parse the coordinates out of text documents and to create features with location references. Or you could take advanced entity extraction engines and connect them to document databases like MarkLogic and use those engines to create rich tag metadata and integrate that into a production workflow. So this is a critical architecture which is really focused on solving a very complex problem. We have a lot of different source data. What we desire is a single pane of glass with fused intelligence information. The challenge, of course, is getting from raw intelligence into a fused process. So we need to tackle that problem at the point of ingest. We need to process our data and then normalize it. On top of that, we can apply standard analytics. We can leverage GIS's real-time and data processing capabilities to assist us in this process and to create repeatable tradecraft. So now we're going to move into an example of how different types of analysts would actually leverage the same platform that we've been talking about and how they leverage GIS and support their workflow. So we'll start with, of course, I'd say the most obvious, which is in the GeoInt realm. They're all about location and geospatial technologies. The key thing is they fit into this same exact workflow. We have our terrain and imagery workstations for providing imagery intelligence and foundational GeoInt. And that information is shared and integrated with all the other intelligence that's being collected in our organization. You can think of the GeoInt professional as really being that linchpin of location-enabled intelligence and enabling all the other analysts to come together with the right tools and data. One of the key workflows that's performed in the GeoInt space is intelligence preparation of the battle space or the battlefield environment. It's about looking at the environment and enemy's doctrine to determine how they will complete their mission. So IPB is done during the planning and directing phase of the intelligence cycle. IPB integrates information on enemy, weather, and terrain and provides a basis for situation development, target value analysis, collection or reconnaissance, and surveillance planning and battlefield decision-making. Terrain analysis reduces the uncertainties regarding the effects of terrain in operations. For example, relief, drainage, vegetation, hydrology, and cultural and political aspects of terrain. The products support the analysis of military aspects of terrain and is performed by the intelligence staff. And ideally, the majority of this is performed by your GEOINT professionals. They're looking at creating products like observations in fields and fire, cover concealment, obstacles, incorporating operational information in their analysis of key terrain, looking at avenues of approach and mobility corridors, and air avenues of approach. The graphic product they create is known as a combined obstacle overlay. Now, in a traditional intelligence preparation of the battlespace process, it's often thought of as a linear process, but in fact, it's a series of these smaller cycles of defining the battlefield and battlespace, describing the operational environment, evaluating the threat or adversary, and determining courses of action. In each of these cycles, you can think of as miniature cycles where production, analysis, and dissemination are occurring. And each of these cycles is producing new intelligence information and new foundational layers that can be integrated dynamically in each phase. So as new information products come out of one phase, they're brought in dynamically into the next phase of the process. And as our intelligence information and our data volumes increase, we can run our analysis and improve our knowledge. So for example, as we collect new information about the terrain in phase 1, that information goes into phase 2 to better describe the operational environment. With a better description of the operational environment, we can do a more detailed analysis on the threat or adversary, and ultimately this impacts our analysis of course of action. So bringing that intelligence information, that foundational information together with enemy threat information can produce our final IPB type products. The key concept in this new world of GEOINT is this idea of foundational geospatial intelligence. There's many different intelligence products that are GEOINT in nature that are needed to serve as a foundation for all sorts of intelligence and operational information. These would include things like you think of your standard base maps, your topographic, your aeronautic, your maritime base maps. These also include information like human geography, current boundaries, current names, up-to-date imagery, high-resolution elevation data, whether it's LiDAR or other high-resolution data. That information, instead of being provided as static products, you can think of it being provided through the form of a living atlas, a living series of information layers that can be combined and reused in all sorts of intelligence workflows and production processes. So it's delivered to the warfighter and analyst to help support timely decision-making and operational success, and it supports a wide variety of different users. Key component, of course, of GEOINT is imagery, and imagery really enables the geospatial domain. It helps us see the Earth, understand what's happening, helps us find what's there, looking for and discovering new activities and new objects, and ultimately share with others information that can help them make decisions and take action. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to one of those applications that Dave showed earlier, the idea of a focused app for imagery intelligence purposes. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to David, who's going to take you through how an app like that actually comes together.
Thanks, Ben. As Ben talked about, he said that focused applications can allow us to be able to perform a number of different analyses. In this case, this focused application performs battle damage assessment over a key area of focus. That key area of focus is Tripoli, because on July 14, 2014, ISIS performed an attack which destroyed over 90% of the airplanes at this airfield. Widgets with this application allow me to swipe between my imagery. So I can look at my pre and post imagery if I want to. At the same time, we can manually create structured observations over my area of interest. So I'm going to turn on some of these structured observations, and I'm going to go to a specific area in the northwest of the airfield. With this airfield, we can then look at the pre and post imagery to see what actually occurred. And our analysts, imagery analysts in this case, can be able to create structured observations over that area of interest. So here we can see that there is a plane that was damaged right here, as well as we can also see that there is debris that needs to be cleaned up from this particular location. Now, although this is just a simple clicking of the points, we could also add additional contextual information if we wanted to as well. And that can all be set up by your geospatial analyst or working in tandem with your imagery analyst. One thing I'll point out as well with this application is that we can look at not only imagery that occurs at one particular time, but we can have a catalog of that imagery. So in this case, if I want to look at my pre, which is February 4th of 2014, I can also look at my imagery that occurred during that specific time frame when the attack occurred. Or if I want to look and see how things have progressed over time, we can focus to look at how things were in January of this year. Seeing what's actually occurred in that area of interest, and then being able to see if they've done any new modifications to those particular areas. Now again, this is a very focused application because what it does is allows for us to be able to create structured observations, have a swipe between imagery, and to publish those observations back to the portal so other analysts, whether geospatial analysts, imagery analysts, or all source analysts, can pull them all together. The second application, which I showed you previously, is more for the briefer. This would be like a senior briefing tool where someone wanted to have all that information in an easy-to-use context. Providing this type of an application would allow for someone to be able to brief the concepts, to give a high level of what's occurred in a particular area, and then be able to share that information with others. And this is just these are just two of the applications that have been created to focus on imagery analysis. Back to you, Ben.
All right, thank you, David. That was a quick tour of a couple focused applications. The key thing about these apps is these weren't developed by developers writing code. They were built by another analyst or an expert in your organization, composed together using a simple application called Web App Builder or other template apps in order to bring that together. So this isn't about long-term big development projects to build apps like this. This is about leveraging the tools that are already part of the ArcGIS platform that's part of the portal, which David was showing earlier, and just taking advantage of those tools and the ability to manage that data inside of a GIS platform. So really, as we think about using ArcGIS as a GeoInt platform, we think about it supporting our standard tasking, processing, exploitation, dissemination workflows. We definitely think about our professional imagery and geospatial analysts, so using our professional desktop tools, using their professional tools of choice, and then connecting those into the overall enterprise. First off, in order to manage content, managing our imagery data holdings, so bringing that different data from different time periods together, so you can share data and discover data easily, and handling of all the various metadata. And then finally doing our image processing and analytics to find data, to find new features, extract those features as structured observations, or classify imagery using remote sensing technology, or tying in different partner technology in order to do different kinds of feature extraction. And then finally sharing out that product, so sharing out that simple swipe view of the imagery, or sharing out a simple image report out to other people. And the key thing here is sharing it not as a static product or PDF, which of course you can do, but sharing it as a dynamic product that can be integrated and explored by anybody in the organization and accessed on any device. So the next example we're going to move on to is an example of all source intelligence production. So bringing together our different intelligence information from multiple sources in order to produce an all source intelligence assessment or product. All analysts follow the standard workflow for analytics. They're going to collect data, bring it together, whether it's from sensors or data that's already organized and available in our organization. They're going to visualize that information. They're going to analyze it, so they're going to follow different processes and tools, whether those are geoprocessing tools or models, in order to produce their analytics. They're going to create a variety of different products, whether those are imagery-derived products, specialized products that are like in the form of slides or PowerPoint presentations, screen captures, story maps. And then finally, they're going to share that product. So that's going to verify that it works and meets the requester's needs, going to be shared with a large part of the organization, and help collaborate and gain understanding. So again, here, the platform is really the key thing that's enabling this. First off, it's enabling the combination and use of content. It's bringing in workflows and tools and models. It's connecting those tools and models to applications in the form of web applications, whether that's using application templates, widgets, or other dynamic apps. And then finally, it's about pushing that information out to the actual requesters or operators. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of this analytic workflow in the form of an interactive analysis. And we're going to use as a common case of needing to do some open source intelligence analysis. I want to bring together some open source intelligence information. I want to be able to visualize and understand that information in order to answer a specific intelligence question. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to David to go ahead and show you that application.
Thanks, Ben. First off, I want to start with a finished product. In this case, we have a finished workbook focusing on Libya to help us get greater context for what's actually occurring in these different locations. All these cards are interactive, providing a way that we can integrate and analyze what's happening between each one of our data sources. But how do we create such a product? Insights for ArcGIS is a new web application that gives you fast, dynamic, and powerful data exploration and discovery. With Insights, we can easily explore all the data made available to us, whether it's from stuff that's within your content, maybe data sets that are within your organization, or maybe data that you have in Excel. In this case, I'm going to search for Libya to see what data sets my geospatial analyst has made available to me to look for. And I can see that I have this control map, which looks at the area control made available from IHS Janes. So now that I have this data set within my page, I can simply drag and drop that onto the map. And this provides a focused understanding of who has control of what specific areas there in Libya. At the same time, I can also be able to pull in additional information. In this case, I can be able to explore those attributes of my data to pull in and find out the total number of individuals that have been killed due to attacks, providing me greater context and understanding for those specific areas of interest. For the sake of time, I pre-processed some data, but in this case, we can be able to create a summary chart, which has the total number of attacks that occurred, in this case, between 2012 and July 16, 2016, when ISIS lost control in Tripoli, as well as looking at those events that are from September 2016 to the present. So I'm going to create two summary tables. And make those available. At the same time, I also want to create an additional map. So I'm going to create another map here. And then I'm going to bring in those two different data sets I just created charts for. By analyzing these different data sets, I can be able to gain a greater understanding of when events occurred pre and post 2016. So I can understand that the number of attacks have decreased, but given that Insights has the ability to be able to ask specific questions of your data, I can use the action button here to find out, okay, how is my data distributed? And it'll give me a number of tools I can be able to utilize to be able to answer those questions. At the same time, I can also be able to understand how is my data related. So I can either create a scatter plot or a ratio, or I can enrich that data with additional data sets. So in this case, I can be able to understand and look at the total number of events that have occurred in the past and compare those to see that the relative number of events that have occurred in the last year and a half have significantly decreased since ISIS lost control there in Tripoli. Now that I've kind of created this simple analysis, made it available, what I can do at this point is to be able to share that analysis. So by clicking the share page, I can share this to my portal so that other analysts can be able to understand what actually has occurred in this area and be able to get greater context for what actually is occurring. So by sharing this page, I now have the ability to take this analysis and to embed that either into an iframe, into a web page, or to provide access for other people within my organization to be able to utilize these services. So with that, I'll give it back to Ben.
Thanks, David. Yeah, that's a great use of the Insights application to look at some open source intelligence. I think the key thing here is, Insights is just a new application. It's another one of these applications that connects to all of the data that you're already putting into your portal. It provides any analyst that easy access to the data and it provides them the ability to do interactive data analysis and exploration. And then finally, of course, at the end, as David was showing, you can actually share that analytics. And when you share that analytics out, you share that card, it's interactive. Those cards, that collection of cards on the page, it's interactive, and it's a product that can tell a rich analytic story, and then you can combine that into different products, which actually we'll show here in a minute, to put it into the full context of an intelligence analysis. So it's really about, as an all-source analyst, it's about being able to fuse together multiple sources of intelligence information, whether that's our foundational intelligence, our geospatial analysis, our signals intelligence data, our imagery intelligence data, and our current reporting data into one view, where you can have that integrated in to make a multi-int product, but also to make an assessment based on multiple sources of intelligence information. And then finally, in most cases in environments that I've been in, one of the main jobs of somebody in the all-source role doing all-source production is creating the final product, creating that intelligence briefing or that intelligence product. And they want to be able to share that out. And now there's really a whole new variety of applications we can use to create rich and useful intelligence products. They're highly visual, they can be accessed by anybody in very simple ways, and it provides access so they can do some of their own interrogation of the data, so it gives them more confidence in the analysis, but also so they can explore it in their own way, so they can actually understand the context, and they can understand what's happening on the ground. And in order to do that, they use a variety of different applications. In this case, we're going to focus in on one application, which is story maps. And with that, we're going to have David show you how you can actually use these applications to communicate your analytic results. Over to you again, David.
Thanks, Ben. So we're going to pick up right where we left off. So the last thing you saw me doing was actually sharing my page. So with me sharing my page, I've actually, right here at the bottom of it, since I've shared it to everyone, I have this embedded code. And so by taking that embedded code, I can go to my finished story map here and be able to add a new section. So we'll title this Insights Libya Analysis. And then we're going to embed this code into our application. So by taking that and having some pre-defined text, we can be able to take that analysis that we just completed and be able to share this to where other individuals, not just the one creating the product, but others can be able to interrogate those different data sets as well. The same type of analysis that I did, you can still be able to complete in these different ones in this application as well. So by pulling together the information from the imagery analyst, pulling together the geospatial analyst information, taking into account the information that's provided by the SIGINT analyst, and then by pulling additional context and information, in this case regarding the economic and political situation there in Libya, we can be able to pull together a product that reads much like a story. It creates that key intelligence product that we can be able to share, whether it's to any individual with a simple sharing of the link. Without having to copy over and take the information and share it to someone else, all we have to do is be able to socialize this, is to be able to copy that link and send it in an email. This provides a key way, an easy way, that we can be able to take these different products and share them with other individuals. Back to you, Ben.
Thanks, David. So that was one example of one kind of story map. In this case, it was a intelligence briefing for Libya. But there's many different ways that you could create these specific apps. And you can see the key thing there was the idea of combining intelligence products in the form of interactive maps, charts, and other web pages with text. So the written assessment and having a linkage between that written assessment and the actual intelligence product. So an interactive product that tells the story for somebody so they can actually read it and interact with it rather than just this set of slides that they flip through that's lost context and connection to the information behind it. So probably part of the thing you're wondering to yourself is, well, is anybody even doing this? Is this something that's even happening? So it definitely is, and I think one of the best examples that I can refer to is the platform that's being used by the U.S. intelligence community, which is the GIS portal. They have actually over 60,000 users, and one of the points I want to make about that is one of the main ways that people are using that platform is to consume and read these story maps, to consume and read these finished intelligence products, in addition to accessing this foundational intelligence information, whether that's foundational geo information, imagery information, the results of analysis, or even user-contributed content that is brought together in that ICGIS portal, which rides on the IC, the Intelligence Community IT Enterprise, which is, for many of you, if you're not aware, that's the commercial cloud, which is based on Amazon. So it rides on top of that, but it runs inside of their network. It runs inside of the top secret space, runs inside of that network. And as Sue Gordon, who's the Deputy Director of NGA, says, it really provides this geospatial framework. It's a platform they use for analysis, collaboration, and data sharing, and that's used across the community. So it's something that's available to the whole community. So if you're in the U.S. intelligence community, this is something you have access to today, or in many other countries, as a matter of fact, the same technology and same platform is already being used for some of these same purposes. So what is it doing? It's helping us integrate information using location. We're combining different sources of information, observations, and other foundational contextual information to understand what's happening, where it's happening, and why is it happening. Then we're integrating those into intelligence products which can be used to support operations, whether that's information all the way out in the field or in the form of interactive products, dashboards, and assessments for use for situational awareness and to aid in understanding of what's happening in our current environment. The key to this process is this intelligence information needs to be actionable. This needs to happen faster. It needs to happen inside of the decision loop of the enemy. It needs to happen quickly. It needs to still provide that complex analysis, that context which provides us that mission imperative. It needs to provide the information in a way that's accessible. It's not enough to produce static products anymore. We need to share our information as services so people can recombine and recreate and use it in their own additional analysis. We use this information in intelligence products and in real-time analytics. So with that, we're going to be wrapping up now. So if you have any questions you'd like us to answer, make sure you input them into the question box, which is over in your console when you logged into the session. If you want to input any of those questions now, this is going to wrap up our Intelligence Support to Operations webinar. One thing I want to point out is this is part of an entire series of integrated intelligence webinars. If you want to sign up for the next webinar in our series, we call it Out of the Basement. It's really talking about the role of a GIS professional in an organization and how they can improve their role and be more connected to the intelligence mission. If you want to connect to that, you can sign up to that series. We'll be presenting that along with a bunch of other topics at our International Users Conference in July as well. So if you're coming to San Diego for International Users Conference, take a look at the defense track and you'll see this presentation along with a bunch of others that you can also attend and participate in there, or just wait for it to come out as part of our webinar series this fall. So sign up for that if you haven't already. Of course, you signed up for this webinar, so you probably already know about the webinar series, but go ahead and sign up for the whole series if you have not already. And with that, I'm going to open it up to any questions. Let's see if there's any questions online at this point. Anything from the audience, Laura?
We don't have any right at the moment, but maybe we'll leave a couple minutes just for people to type out their questions.
Sure, not a problem. We can do that. One of the questions that I often get when I talk about doing these kind of workflows is when we talked about imagery and we talked about that geo analyst earlier, the idea of integrating imagery into our geo analysis. Well, there's many different forms of imagery, many different kinds of imagery. So often I get asked the question of, do we support all the national imagery that's collected by national satellites? And the answer to that is yes. We do have a component that we work on with NGA that we have under a cooperative research and development agreement with them that allows us to integrate that kind of imagery in. To get access to that, you just need to contact us and we can give you information about who in your organization you need to reach out to get access to that capability. All right, we've given a little more time. Any questions come in?
Yes, I have one here from Mike. It says, is Insights for ArcGIS available on the standard license?
So that's a great question, Mike. So there is, Insights is available if your organization has Portal. It is a separately licensed product. However, in many organizations, depending on the number of licenses you already have, and a few other factors, you probably already have access to insights. So if you already have ArcGIS, Enterprise Edition, and you're already using that in your organization, you probably have access to a limited number of Insight licenses. But it is a separately licensed product, so you'll need enough licenses to cover the number of users in the organization. Good question.
And it looks like that's it for questions.
Okay, that's good. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thanks, Dave, for showing us all the great technology. And thanks to everybody for joining our session. The recording will be made available in the near future, and you'll get an email notification when that happens. Thank you.